Can the Miami Heat become a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference so they can get home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs? Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat basketball channel. My name is Amir. Before I get into the video today, just want to thank everybody for their continued support of my channel. I'm almost at 1,000 subscribers, so it would mean a lot to me if you guys could subscribe to the channel. I noticed that about 89% of the people watching the videos are not subscribed, so if you could please subscribe, it would mean a lot. So thank you again. So the Miami Heat are currently 7th seed in the Eastern Conference right now. They're 30-25, and it's still All-Star break technically, and the Miami Heat are going to play again on Friday, which is tomorrow. So been bored without basketball, so super excited that the Heat are finally going to get back into action. They're going to have a pivotal 4-game road stint as they get back into the swing of things. So not going to be easy. They're going to be playing against the Pelicans tomorrow, and then they're going to be playing against the Sacramento Kings on the road on Monday, and then after that they're going to play the Trailblazers and then the Nuggets. So 3 pretty difficult games, but 3 winnable games for sure, I would say. I think the Denver game is going to be the toughest, obviously. And Pelicans are not too bad. They have a better record than us right now. Kings, we've beat them before. And Portland, that should be an easy victory. But the Miami Heat have been shorthanded before the break. As we all know, Jimmy Butler was out for personal reasons, but it looks like he should be back for this road trip, hopefully. And if he's not playing tomorrow, then hopefully he'll be there Monday against the Kings. We know Terry Rozier suffered an injury against the Boston Celtics, and it wasn't as severe as we thought it would be, which is great. So he might be back. He's questionable for Friday. And then Josh Richardson with a dislocated shoulder, he's going to be out probably for another few weeks or so. So this is a pivotal time for the Miami Heat. And, I didn't think the Miami Heat were going to be able to have a chance at becoming a top 3 or 4 seed in the East, but they're not that far behind, honestly. And it is possible. Ultimately, the first goal for the Miami Heat right now is to avoid the play-in. So right now they technically are a play-in if the season ended today. And they need to be at least the 6th seed, which I think is one of their goals. And then the other goal should be trying to get home court in the first round to make it as easy as possible for Jimmy Butler. So we know Jimmy becomes Jimmy in the playoffs and has been spectacular and just hasn't had an easy path or enough help, it seems like, right? So the Miami Heat have dealt with injuries in the past 4 years. Dating back to it in the bubble, in the finals, we lost Bam for a couple games and Dragic, and then we lost Kyle Lowry in 2022. Tyler Hero all last year, basically. Victor Oladipo, Jimmy's missed games in the last 2 playoff seasons. So it's been a difficult path, and we want to be able to avoid the difficult path again, and that's not being in the play-in and playing extra games when you don't need to, and then again not having home court advantage, because we know that the Miami Heat are a slightly better team this season right now at home than on the road, and we know that role players typically play better at home during the playoffs, so it's advantageous that the Miami Heat play better within the final 27 games of the season so they can avoid, again, the play-in and avoid playing on the road. So the Miami Heat right now are only half a game from the 6th seed, so that's great. So they're half a game from avoiding the play-in, and they're only 2.5 games from the 5th seed, 3 from the 4th, and they are 5.5 from the 3rd. So right now, the first thing the Miami Heat need to do is just focus on winning and control what they can control, which is just playing better basketball and winning games. And in March, they're going to have a relatively easy schedule, one of the easiest schedules in the NBA, which is a good thing. So we're going to play a lot of teams that are below 500, so that should definitely help. And we're going to be playing some of the teams that are ahead of us. So we still play the Knicks, I believe, the Sixers, and the Cavs 2 more times. So, and the Cavs even, honestly, are only 7 games. I mean, 7 games is a big lead, but we're 7 games out of second. And the Cavs have been super impressive this year, and Donovan Mitchell has been essentially an MVP candidate, playing without Mobley and Garland for big chunks of the season. And they were able to ascend, and they're the hottest team in the NBA, where they've won 18 out of the last 20, which is just incredible. So shocked to see them at the 2 seed. But there's some things that I think that I wanted to cover on the video of how the Miami Heat can improve and possibly move up to the 4th seed. And they do have some help right now because the Knicks are injured, and we know that OG Anunoby had some surgery on his wrist, and I'm not sure when he's going to be back. They said it was going to be like 3 or 4 weeks, so he might be out for the next week or so. And Julius Randle also dislocated his shoulder, similar to Jay Rich, and he was already out for a few weeks, and he might be out for another couple. So the Knicks have been free falling, as have the Sixers, because Joel Embiid has been hurt, and Tobias Harris and a few others, DeAndre Melton on that team. So 2 of the teams ahead of Miami have dealt with injuries, and they finally have tasted some of our medicine, basically, since we've been one of the most injured teams in the NBA. So I think that's one thing just moving forward, and the obvious that in order for the Miami Heat to improve, they need to get healthy. And even though the Miami Heat have been playing better throughout the season shorthanded, which is just ironic because you could see what happens to teams when they lose their best players, like the Knicks, like the Sixers. They typically free fall and lose the majority of the games that they play. But the Miami Heat team, they're so deep, and we have so many guys that are just that stay ready, so they don't have to get ready, as UD likes to say, and fit in to our schemes and play above their heads and play really hard, and have helped us win a lot of games that we shouldn't have without Jimmy Butler and Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, who've all 3 missed a decent chunk, especially Tyler and Jimmy. So anyway, that's the biggest thing I think right now is if we want to win games moving forward, we need players to be available and to be healthy. And we're not healthy right now, but one issue is that we've had so many different starting lineups. We've had 29 different starting lineups throughout this season. So it was the most at one point, but we're top 5 in the most different used starting lineups, which is hard because there's no consistency there. And you're just rotating so many different players that are coming in and out of the lineup that it makes it more difficult to build that chemistry and find those units that can produce the best net rating. So that's one issue right there. The other thing, there's other areas that the Heat need to improve in order to win more games. And I think offensively, if we start offensively, the Miami Heat, I think they need to improve their 3-point shooting. So the Miami Heat at one point in the season was the number 1 3-point shooting team in terms of percentage. And right now, if we take a look at their rankings, right now they're 10th. So they were number 1 for the first month and a half of the season. So they started off the season really well. That was when they were 8 games above 500, again without Jimmy Butler, without Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero missing over 18 games. They were still shooting good as a team, and lately they are now the 10th seed. So they just have been inconsistent, inefficient from 3, and we're able to get good looks. And players like Duncan Robinson have been up and down. And I think in the month of January was just the worst month for the Miami Heat, where they had that 7-game losing streak. And Duncan wasn't shooting as good. Tyler wasn't shooting as good either. Jay Rich was not shooting as good. So you name it. And I think that's one of the biggest issues. If we shoot threes well, we're going to be a good team. If we look back to when we made the finals, we were always a good 3-point shooting team. That's definitely what's helped us get far. So one, I think we need to improve on our 3-point shooting. The other piece is Jimmy Butler. His usage is definitely down. Let me take a look at the numbers. So Butler's posting the lowest usage rate in a Heat uniform this season. And we know that Jimmy, misses games early on and, does the whole load management thing. And he is also very passive at times in games where he's distributing the ball more, not taking shots, not being aggressive, getting to the foul line. And so the Miami Heat need him to be aggressive, increase his usage, increase his scoring. He's averaging 21 points per game right now, which is not bad, but we need him to up that to 24, 25 points per game in these last 27. We need him to be a all-star level type player, even though he doesn't want to be an all-star. Talk about that later, but his usage needs to increase in order for this team to win. The other aspects I think offensively that we need to focus on is our rim pressure. So if we look at the distribution of the shots, this Miami Heat team takes more mid-range shots than almost any team in the league, and then three-point shots, and we barely get to the rim. So Bam Adebayo has been shooting more mid-range shots this season and scoring less in the paint, and he's been less of a lob threat this season. He's been playing downhill less and focusing more on that mid-range and those turnaround jumpers, which is fine, but I think Bam needs to score more in the paint for us. And just in general, the Miami Heat aren't getting buckets in the paint because they're not shooting much there because they can't get there. And so that's why we traded for Terry Rozier, someone who is a 3-level scorer, someone who has been able to get to the paint before his injury. So I think we need to be able to score easier buckets or get closer to the rim as possible. And I think that's going to help. Another thing offensively too that can help this Miami Heat team moving forward is Tyler Hero being more consistent. So Tyler's having a great year. He's having his best year, statistically when it comes to points and like assists and field goal percentage and all that. But he's only averaging like half a point more than he did last season, which was a career high. So Tyler's playing good. He's playing fine, but there's games where he's inconsistent, where he's shooting 10 for 25 or 7 for 19. And he's shooting a lot more threes in those games. And I think if he's not making his threes, like in the last game that he played, he was 1 for 8 against the Sixers. He still played good and still scored like 20 something points, 23 points. But that was because he started finally taking more mid-range jumpers and actually attacking the rim, which was great. As opposed to just doing the floaters that he typically does, he was actually getting all the way to the rim and playing through contact, which was really interesting to see. So I think he needs to be a little more consistent for the remainder of the season. He's averaging about 21 points per game. We need him to score 24 points per game for the remainder of those 27 games, or even more, maybe even 25, and have him and Jimmy lead us offensively. So I think that's one thing, is we need Tyler to just shoot a little more efficiently and be that primary scorer for us with Jimmy Butler. The other areas is defense, of course. So Miami has definitely improved in that area in the last 2 weeks. So our defensive rating at one point was like 16th in the NBA, which is just not Miami Heat basketball. Their identity is typically defense first, with a lot of wing players and two-way players, and Bam Adebayo being one of the best defensive players in the NBA. And they're now, I think, number 8 in defensive rating, which is great. So they're back to top 10. But the last 2 weeks, they've been number 3 in defense overall. So Caleb Martin has been improving and helping with our point of attack defense. Terry Rozier has been helping, even though he's not the best defender, in comparison to Kyle Lowry. His perimeter defense has been a lot better. And players like Hero and Duncan have been stepping up to a certain degree and playing well within the defensive scheme and their zone scheme, which is definitely something that has helped us come back and win some games lately. So we need to continue to be better there. And we know Jimmy has been playing a little bit better as well as a two-way player. And Haywood Highsmith and Jaime Jaquez have been playing well defensively of late, which is great. And we also signed Dylan Wright, who is going to be a backup point guard, who is known for his defense. And so he's going to be the one that's going to mainly help us at the point of attack, which has been one of the biggest issues. So point of attack, sometimes perimeter defense, and then rim protection. We don't have another big, unfortunately. So that's still one issue, is not having a shot blocker helping us, I guess, protect the rim. And that's another area we can improve in, but we don't have anybody at the moment outside of Bam Adebayo that can really help us there. But those are some things I think the Heat can do that will help elevate us to possibly get a top 4 seed. I don't think the Heat are going to be a play-in team. I think because, one, Jimmy is going to start stepping up now that it's getting closer to playoff time, and we are going to be getting healthier once Terry Rozier is back. With Jay Rich injured and signing Dalen right now, I think he's kind of that replacement, so I'm not too worried about that. But we need Terry Rozier to be healthy and more aggressive when he comes back. And I think it starts on defense. As long as we're better defensively, that's going to help us. And offensively, we need Jimmy to go. We need Tyler to continue to step it up. We need Bam Adebayo to get more pick and roll action with Jimmy. Or excuse me, not Jimmy, because Jimmy never passes the ball to Bam, it seems like. With Duncan who loves throwing alley-oops to Bam Adebayo off the pick and roll. Terry Rozier, who's improving with Bam, and then of course Tyler Hero, who's also one of the best pick and roll players with Bam Adebayo. So those are some things we need to do to be better offensively, and for us to possibly get to a top 4 seed. I think the Heat are going to finish somewhere around 5 or 6 realistically. It might be hard to get past the Bucks and the Knicks because I think the Knicks are going to get healthy eventually, and they are a tough team, and they've added some pieces like Bogdanovich and Burks that have helped add depth and scoring to their team, and they've added OG, who's definitely helped them defensively, and Jalen Brunson right now is playing amazing. So it might be hard to get to that 4th seed, but it's definitely possible. It's definitely within reach, and they need to control what they can control, which is winning these games right now. Can't control other teams and how they play, but we have an advantage right now that we are healthier than a Knicks than the Sixers. So we need to start stacking up wins to get past those teams. So anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think the Miami Heat can get a 3 or 4 seed, or do you think it'll be more likely a 5 or 6 seed? So as long as we avoid the play-in, that's all that matters. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you soon.